So I'm here this morning to, I guess, provide the kick plate for the panel discussion. I wanted to give a kind of a bird's eye view of the digital arena from mine and Google's perspective, and kind of call out the areas of focus that are perhaps fundamental to success here. I work for a company that prides itself on solving very big problems with computer science. So this is my very poor attempt at being a bit arty. The book, The Go-Between, opens with this line. And I thought it was quite apt because in many ways everyone in this room is an intermediary or a go-between. Whether you're a marketer interfacing between your company's products and consumers, or if you're an agency, obviously interfacing between clients and the media owner. I think the digital industry suffers a bit, and I don't want to start on a negative, but I do think we suffer a bit from focusing on what's new and sexy, and continually looking at the summit as opposed to perhaps examining the ground beneath our feet. And I think in order to appreciate the potential of digital, we really need to add context to the evaluation of what's new. And that context is often provided by the past and by the present. So this example on this slide here just calls out kind of the way things used to be done operationally, some legislation issues, the F1, tobacco advertising there, and then the approach to content. You know, some of these things like the baby being given a bottle of Coke is the best way for toddler development. It's fantastic, as is blowing smoke into a lady's face. I've tried it, it doesn't work. But we often start with the premise that anything new is better than what went before it. And I really don't believe that's a universal truth. I think here we have examples where that is true. But if we look in the context of digital and the industry itself, not everything that is new or coming into the arena is necessarily better than what's current. And I'm alluding to traditional media channels especially. I think that digital isn't a medium in isolation. I think digital is a medium that needs to be evaluated in the context of how it complements other media and other channels. I think digital has been a profound illuminating factor actually in the effectiveness of traditional media. And hopefully I'll touch upon that in a second. When I started out in digital, actually with Damien, we set up the first digital operation at Publicis Zenith 11 years ago now. We were small, there was only 4 or 5 of us. And what was really interesting is that we had a profound interest in everything cyber, as it was called then, I think. But it was lacking some fundamental qualities, such as scale and relevance to kind of marketing objectives, because you could do this really sexy, interesting stuff with online in those days, but you couldn't do it at scale. Things have changed, you know, for the better. We now are talking about a consumer that is worldwide connected to the internet, even more so now where we see the smartphone, which actually is a bit of a misnomer. I think it's not about the intelligence of the device, it's about the accessibility of the device to the internet. The smartphone delivers the always-on consumer, and that is something perhaps we've been missing when it was just a desktop internet. We now have 2 billion people connected. We have, you know, online video now approaching phenomenal levels of consumption. We have social networks, the likes of Facebook, Twitter, etc. You know, the scale of those has never been bigger, and it's only getting bigger and bigger. And the impact of those platforms on not only social behaviour, but as we've seen with some of the revolutions that are underway, has been profound. I thought it was really interesting. I was at dinner last night, and somebody was talking about, you know, whether the internet's a good or a bad thing. And there's a book just out by a chap called Gleich, and he talks about the information age. And he specifically answers the question about whether the internet is a good thing or a bad thing. And he said it's neither. What it is a platform for truth, and that tends to err on the good side. And I think that's the way we should view these platforms in terms of their potential. The final piece of the pie, as I was talking, is that when we started the online operation, we had, you know, billings probably sub $1 million per annum. You know, we weren't spending that much. We couldn't, because the ability to do so just wasn't there, or the clients hadn't embraced the platform. We now have an industry that's verging on 70 billion worldwide. You know, in the UK, this is a channel that's now bigger than TV. it's getting there. We're suddenly achieving this critical mass as a platform, and there's not going to be any turning back. What's interesting about the digital platform is how it's now manifesting itself. What was principally desktop 10 years ago is now extrapolated out across multiple platforms. And this throws down a huge amount of challenges, but also opportunities for agencies and advertisers. What we're doing in the social space is not an exact science yet. What we're doing in search is not an exact science yet. There are pockets of excellence, but we still have a scenario where I think people are focusing on what's next and new and sexy, yet the true potential of things like search is underdeveloped. But perhaps the most profound characteristic of digital that I would focus on is the acceleration of everything. And the acceleration of things that are growing fast but achieving phenomenal scale very quickly. The stuff I will call out here is probably the one at the top in the middle. I was just reading VentureBeat yesterday, and there were the two guys, I think the guy was from Activision and maybe the other one was EA, I might get my facts wrong here. But they were talking about these game launches. Now, Call of Duty Black Ops, before it came out, there was a lot of buzz around it. This game launched and generated $400 million worth of sales in a single day. Now, I was yesterday talking about this with a colleague, and I said, let's do the math on what that would be for the auto industry. So if you took a car that was $20,000, say £15,000, that first day sales represents 20,000 cars sold. Now, this is an industry, I think, that still sits below the radar for many people. These guys spend up to $100 million on a single game launch. You know, Ford or GM would struggle to match that in terms of marketing impetus and budgeting. It's phenomenal. The other thing I thought was interesting was the rise of the machines in terms of mobile devices. So in the UK, Google is now having 1 in 5 searches coming through a mobile device. If you're not taking mobile seriously in this space and not appreciating how quickly it's scaling, you're going to miss out. So, where do we focus? And I'm going to get this wrong, but I just wanted to call out a few areas that I think are the defining characteristics of digital and lead on to perhaps where that would show areas of focus up. So, we've talked about the speed, we've talked about the complexity, I've talked about perhaps the fragmentation, but I've also talked about the importance. This is a very big marketplace. However, to embrace it, we have to be cognizant of the challenges of doing so. There are commercial hurdles. Experimentation is costly, and it doesn't always work. You know, if you're thinking about moving budget from traditional media or the cannibalization of those budgets into digital, there's a couple of questions that still remain unanswered from my perspective. If you're a big FMCG brand and you're asking your agency, are you the biggest buyer of digital media worldwide? And the question's in the affirmative. Where did that money come from? Was it shifted out of TV or press? And if so, are you still the biggest buyer of TV? Because that's still damn important to these advertisers. So this kind of taking from Peter to Paul is a challenge. What I think is also unrecognised in digital is that there may be a $400 billion above-the-line advertising or measured market out there, but a lot of the money coming into digital isn't from those areas. It's from sales budgets. You know, BMW, for example, would, instead of sticking 300 quid's worth of sunroof on a car for free, they'll use it in online to generate sales. So we need to appreciate that. Proficiency is cool. I think, you know, when I think about some of the margins that the agencies in particular are operating on, and I don't want to be too controversial here, but if you think about it, some agencies are working for some very big blue chip clients for the same percentage kind of fee base that an estate agent is doing. Yet you compare the complexity and the number of tasks involved in delivering these super sophisticated advertising campaigns for clients, it leaves the estate agent role dead in the water. So there's a real mismatch between value delivery and compensation, but I think that's a bigger issue. And they need help in training. So we as a company recognise that as a very big player in both the advertising space and the digital space, that we need to support the ambitions in proficiency escalation around the digital arena, because the agencies can't do it on their own, and neither can clients, and we've all got to band together. Also, technology is a big challenge. It's not within the heartland of most clients or most agencies. You know, this isn't a legacy skill set that has existed within agencies. So, you know, navigating the world of technology and understanding where you need skill sets and where you need to layer on these new platforms is a minefield unless you align with the right people. And then advertiser inertia, I think there are, you know, a lot of the agencies get criticised for the lack of investment in digital or perhaps not hitting or ringing the bell on digital investment worldwide. But a lot of that is down to advertiser inertia. You know, it takes a hell of a lot of education and convincing to get a client to shift from what they traditionally do to a new arena. And we really have to support that. So just to move on, and I'm going to be brief, perhaps 6 minutes I'll take just to round this off. This is where I believe some areas of focus are going to be critical for success. If you think about the traditional landscape in terms of marketing and media, there are a hell of a lot of silos that exist. You have a silo between a commercial team and the editorial team at a publisher. You have the silos within an agency between an account team and a planning team, or a digital team, or the search team. And the silos between the media owner and the agency, where tradition has it that we're adversaries. We're poker faced because we don't want to tell you how much we're prepared to pay because then you'll charge us that amount, and actually we want less. That has to change. It really has to change. Especially, you know, if you think about digital, around 50 to 60% of digital media is now in an auction. So that poker face, you know, clenched fist, it really doesn't work that way in this kind of sector. And as I alluded to previously, right at the beginning, media and measurement, you know, we can't do these in isolation. There is a tremendous impact derived from great advertising, whether it's on a TV set, a national newspaper, a magazine, a search listing, an ad on Facebook, whatever you want to call it. If you get it right, it can work. And I think we really are just at the cusp of understanding the connective tissue between traditional media and online media. They're complementary effects, but also how online can drive offline sales, you know, where we lose that tracking capability. People search for a product and then walk down the road and buy that TV. And vice versa, when people see an ad on TV and flip open their laptop to search for the product, we still haven't mastered that in a coherent way. Secondly, marketing and web infrastructure. I think there's a big disconnect here. Some people are getting their marketing and web infrastructure very, very right. I won't name them, but others are also getting it very, very wrong. So you have fantastic marketing campaigns, but you're completely let down when it comes to usability on a website or the transactional flow of a website. And that's very frustrating, especially if you're an agency or in the marketing department, whereby you do this fantastic work, you drive these people to your web infrastructure and it fails you. It must drive people mad. And then finally, I talked about this. I really do feel there's a huge opportunity for the media tech services to get a lot closer. I will stand up here right now and tell you Google has 1,000 things to learn from the agency and client space. We've been gradually building up what I call a proximity framework with a lot of the likes of Omnicom, Publicis, WPP, Havas, and I think it's really, you know, showing some true benefits, and that needs to continue. Second area is, I guess, alludes to the super science of the new wave of advertising that is being delivered online. We talked about privacy, we talked about the intelligence that can be derived via cookie technology. Now, this super science is fantastically interesting, and if we get this right, it'll be fantastically valuable to consumers. This laser-guided targeting with messaging and content is a fantastic opportunity to kind of pull advertising out of the doldrums where some people just do not engage with advertising content. If you deliver value to someone, they will engage. Secondly, I think, you know, the one thing about online is its accountability has been its forte from day one. You know, we've understood that there are a new set of metrics with online, as well as ones that complement those of traditional. Perhaps we need more that complement the traditional space. But we mustn't walk away from the opportunity, you know, to deliver nigh on 100% accountability for every marketing dollar spent. Digital affords that opportunity, even more so as it mutates into a super powerful platform. And then thirdly, I think the science of insights. A lot of media planning is predicated on tremendous insights around the consumer. This is a snowballing area of interest, especially for agencies and clients, whereby the tools that we use, for example, we've got over 1 billion users of our Google product, our Google search product. That's a focus group of intent, and it can be mined in the right way to deliver far more compelling marketing messages. Third piece is Hal Varian's statement. I would urge you to perhaps read that in your own time, but it's a fantastic take on the opportunity that exists with data and how we're only at the very beginning of understanding how to use data and derive value from it. I honestly would implore you, what frustrates me in this space is that it's not about how much data is, but how valuable some of the data is and how that can be utilized by agencies. A couple of examples I'll give you here. Acer did a fantastic thing using an insights for search tool that Google has. They were about to launch a laptop that had its kind of key product, and the messaging of the ads was around it being lightweight, the kind of thing that the MacBook Air had introduced. And they were going to focus all their messaging on that. They used this tool just to see how that search term was kind of flowing through the Google search queries every day. And what they saw was quite interesting, because just before they're launching this campaign, searches for lightweight laptop were dropping through the floor because basically it had become commoditized. Everyone was doing it. And what was rocketing was battery life, because people had these fantastic looking, very thin laptops that only lasted an hour and a half, and it was no good on the long flights. So they did a flip, and they went with the messaging around that. And that's just the cusp of what can be done here. The same can be done on content. There are plenty of tools out there to see how people engage with your content. They're being used, but not enough. The likes of YouTube Insights is fantastic, just to see what works, what people like, how long they watch something, which bits they drop off. There's so many campaigns now that are launching with YouTube as a test bed, just to see how different kind of versions of copy run. And then waiting, seasonality there is also a fantastic thing. Touch briefly on mobile. There's a lot of talk around mobile, and it's a very exciting arena. And actually, as I said, 1 in 5 searches now in the UK on Google via a mobile device. It's valid. This isn't just hype. This is very real. The numbers are true and very relevant to anyone looking to engage. What's frustrating, however, is that whilst up to 1/3 of traffic to websites is going to come via mobile, the vast majority of advertisers' websites are not optimized for the mobile experience. Now, this is a tremendous oversight and needs to be rectified pretty urgently. And then finally, the last two I just want to focus on, the kind of digital space has always been focused on new blood, bringing new talent into the industry. And I think there's a real need to recognize that it's not just new talent we require, it's new types of talent. It's just an example. These are 2 agency role ads that feature. One is in the traditional Bible of the agencies in the UK campaign, and the other is for the kind of the trading desk, the ad exchange space on ad exchange. The profound difference in the skill sets of the people required to deliver in these new spaces are quite profound. They're looking someone on the right. I don't even know what ActionScript 2.0 is, but it sounds good. And I saw another ad the other day for Efficient Frontier. Now, they're a technology provider, but they're also in the agency space now. I likewise couldn't decipher what they were looking for from someone in the space, because it was all about Python, C++. This is a new type of talent that's needed by agencies to deliver within this marketplace. And then finally, this is my end piece, I promise. For many decades, people have talked about global media owners. So you can take a News Corp, Time Warner, Bertelsmann. They are global, absolutely. But what they are is a portfolio of hundreds, if not thousands, of different P&Ls across multiple markets and multiple media platforms. To be able to sew something up with those guys across the globe is very difficult, because you're talking potentially to 100 different people with different priorities. There's a new breed of media tech company, if you will, that actually offer universal product across multiple markets. And this is something that really needs to think about. I've really started seeing this now with the agency networks. They're thinking about the true global play of the digital platform, how they can hub, for example, where you can start buying YouTube mastheads from a single or a couple of markets and go worldwide with it. And the efficiencies that delivers, not just in headcount, but freeing up this very valuable and smart headcount to do more strategic stuff. It's not about cutting heads or that kind of thing. This is about freeing up people to take them away from the drudgery and putting them in the smart arena. And we're seeing when we train people in one market, those skill sets are scalable to other markets. And I think the most profound thing actually is the metrics. If you're advertising on a Google or a Facebook, you can compare like-for-like metrics for all of your products and services if you're an advertiser or an agency, seeing on top of all of that. If you're seeing that, if you're a Samsung in France, you can see what you're doing right in search and perhaps not doing so right in Italy in search, and use those kind of best practice and learnings, filter it through. That's something that hasn't been able to be done before. If you think about TV, you could say, oh, we do loads of TV in Italy, and it performs like this, and they say, yeah, but it performs less well in the UK. It's different platforms, right? Different marketplace. This is the same across all of these markets. A few little minor tweaks, but it's principally the same. And I think this is going to have a very, very big impact in how we move forward in this space. So I think I've probably overrun just slightly. So thank you very much.